the world is going through a great global transition, and your future, your destiny depends on your allegiances. It depends on where and with whom you position yourself. Welcome to our channel. I am Marco Kiroglu. Some of you have been asking for our banking details so that you can support our ministry. Thank you very much. I highly appreciate that. And here's our banking details. You can find it on our website, countdowntochrist.com/donate. And I know that our Lord Jesus Christ will richly bless you because of your support for this ministry. Now, this great global transition did not start yesterday. In fact, for most of us, it started even long before we were born. This great global transition started at the Second World War. Now, I'm going to take you all the way back to 1945 to 1939 to 45. Second World War, that was the trigger event for this great global transition. Now, let me just take you a little bit backwards to the last great global transition before this one. Did you know the last great global transition happened from 0 AD down to 75 AD? In that transition, Jesus Christ was born as the Messiah. He rose and his ministry was established. He died on the cross. He rose from the dead and he ascended. And in a few years' time, Roman Empire came, invaded and totally eradicated, destroyed the Jewish homeland. All the Jews were scattered all over the world as exiles. That was the end of the nation of Israel. And that was the rise of Christianity, Gentile Christianity. From that day until now, nearly 2,000 years passed. But now I'm going to take you to 1948, right after the Second World War. In fact, during the Second World War, they tried to eradicate Jewish people once for all permanently, but because of God's promises to the Jewish nation, they survived, a remnant survived. And then that remnant bounced back exactly as it was prophesied in the Bible. God brought them back to their ancient homeland, to the land of Israel, which God promised to them. And that happened in 1948. Now in 1948, this current great global transition began to happen. The first great incident of this great global transition was the return of the Jews back to their homeland. Now remember what I just said. In the previous great global transition, Jews were scattered from their homeland and their homeland was destroyed. But in this one, nearly 2,000 years later, not really 2,000, 1,900 something later, Jews are returning back to their homeland in 1948, and the nation of Israel is rebirthed. Many people did not realize, but it wasn't only Jews returning their homeland. It was the beginning of another great global transition. And let me just run you through the following decades after 1948, just mentioning you only a few great incidences that took place, transitioning the world beyond recognition, transforming the world, redefining the world beyond recognition. 1948, Jews go back to their homeland, re-establish the nation of Israel. They become a new independent nation. Jews are now running back to their homeland from all over the world, regathering and becoming a mighty nation. Soon after that, we started another phenomenon happening. Another new phenomenon started happening all over the world. More and more, the whole concept of nationhood was eroded and it was on decline. Decline of nationhood, and it was being replaced with a completely new concept that was never a reality in the whole church history in the last 2,000 years. Guess what that was? Globalism. After 1948, nationhood, especially nation statehood was declining and being rejected globally, and a new concept was being embraced: globalism, global community. And until now, today we are in 2021, nationhood is almost completely gone. In fact, most of the nations, most of the states all over the world are not anymore defined as nation states. They are all a kind of a participant of the global civilization. Now, we are talking about this global village. Did you know this started happening as Jews began to go back to their homeland in 1948? And next thing I want to highlight is the decline of Christianity and the rise of anti-God paganism. This also started happening simultaneously after 1948. After 1948, all over the Western world especially, there was this sudden, never heard of dislike towards Christianity. And this dislike, in a very short time, this dislike towards Christianity turned into an anti-God sentiment, anti-Christianity sentiment. Did you know, since 1948 until now, one of the biggest pet subjects of Western universities has been to attack and discredit the Bible and Christianity. This is not a new thing. It's been going on since the Second World War. It started in Europe and it spread to the whole world. And today, this anti-God sentiment, anti-Christianity sentiment reached such high levels that even churches have to now embrace the cultural narrative only to be able to keep their doors open. This is a new thing. Decline of Christianity, rise of anti-God sentiment, anti-Christianity sentiment, and that sentiment became a globally accepted, globally celebrated culture. The next shocking thing was, again, immediately after the Second World War, the decline and almost total eradication of the concept of biblical family. The concept of family, where a man takes a woman as his wife and raise children together. That concept was came under a global attack, and eventually it declined so much so that by the time I was born in 1970s, this concept was almost it has almost become archaic. In fact, my generation of people, nearly half of them in Europe, at least half of them were born in homes where there isn't one mother or a one father. In fact, marriages were breaking like never before. Since that day to this day, from 70s until 2021, marriage, the whole idea of getting married is completely chucked away, tossed away as an archaic concept. Family is destroyed and it is replaced with sex revolution, feminism, homosexuality, abortion, and the direct result of that is suicide. This is shocking. This all started happening right after the Second World War. On the one hand, globalism was rising. On the one hand, anti-God, anti-Christianity, paganistic culture was rising. Church was on decline. Global nationhood was on nationhood states were on decline, and family concept was on decline. Sex revolution replaced it. Feminism, homosexuality, abortion, and suicide was on the rise constantly year after year since 1948. The next thing is another shocking thing. Most of us familiar with it. The decline and total eradication of freedom and autonomy. Now this is again touching wings with the decline of nationhood states. I'm not talking about only your private, personal freedom. I'm talking about the freedom of nations, freedom of states. There is no such thing anymore in this world. And this only began happening since 1948. Until that time, each nation was independent on their own. But since that day, it is no more the case. In fact, right after the Second World War, global establishments were formed, global organizations such as the United Nations, the North Atlantic Peace Treaty, and you name it, many other global organizations which control nations were formed and effectively implemented at the cost of the freedom of nations, and that translated to the personal level, that at the cost of your personal freedom. So today, no nation, nowhere in the world can say, I am going to do whatever I think is best for my country. No, it's gone. Today we live in a global civilization, global village. Globalism is the thing. And it started rising since 1948, and today it's almost, it has not yet, but it has almost reached its fruition, its fulfillment. And this decline of freedom, both personal and national freedom and autonomy, is replaced with global dictatorship. This global dictatorship is getting stronger and stronger by the day. Organizations such as UN, World Health Organizations, and global economical organizations, you name it, there are a horde of them out there. Those organizations dictate the presidents of many nations on what to do and what not to do. In fact, those organizations even dictate who can be president and who cannot be president in many nations across the world. Your national freedom is gone. Your personal freedom is gone. Global dictatorship is the narrative today in this transition. And one another thing I'm going to tell you, that is the disappearance of hard cash and national currencies. National currencies have been disappearing. Look at the European Union. I remember the days when I was a high school student. In Europe, most countries had their national currency. And it is now replaced with euro. All of European countries use the same currency. And more we have been seeing this, but this is going to continue. Now I'm taking you a little further. This disappearance of national currencies will go so much further that entire cash money will disappear, and it will be replaced a global digital currency. Now, you see, cash is replaced and currency is replaced. National currency and cash is replaced. It is declining, and it is being replaced with a global digital currency, which is controlled by the global dictatorship. Now, the next thing, which is a very, very important aspect, it is kind of the cherry on top, that is the decline of humans and the replacement of humans with transhumans. Now, I made a couple of videos about that earlier. But did you know, in the last couple of decades, so-called scientists have been working very hard to mix human DNAs with animal DNAs and with technological advancements so that they can create an advanced transhuman race. Now, I'm going to add one more thing to that. This is not officially recognized by the scientific community, and this is not officially declared by them, but I am confident that this is a demonic attempt, and they are not only mixing human DNA with animal DNA, they are mixing human DNA with demon DNA, animal DNA, and then topping it up with technological advancement that they have already achieved. So they are creating a DNA soup, and they're calling it advanced transhumans. Now, this transition is reaching such a level that genuine humans are being replaced. They are being rejected, and they are being replaced with transhumans. Now you have to choose. You have to choose. Will you continue to remain pure human as God created you? Or will you allow them to add on to you whatever they want to add in with the evil injection and with many other technological things that they have developed so that you can be part of the global transhuman society? robotics and AI technology, is just to name few of them. Of course, you know about how they are now taking genes from various different species of animals and mixing them together and creating hybrid animals. They are not anymore they are not even hybrids. They even use the mythical term chimera to define what they are doing. What they are doing is actually to recreate the global civilization that existed before the flood of Noah, the global civilization of chimeras. What was the global civilization of chimeras? They were demon, human, animal DNA mixed together. And that is the reason why God destroyed every living being on earth except a handful of pure animals and pure humans God picked up and lowered them onto the boat which Noah built, closed the door of the boat and destroyed everything, because humanity played God with the help of demons and created a new species called chimera. Now today, so-called scientific community is using exactly the same vocabulary to define what they are doing, chimeras. They are creating chimera. The rise of chimera. In other words, transhumans are the chimera or the chimeras. What we are seeing now is a decline of humanism and the rise of chimera. Now you got to choose. Will you join the chimera community or will you remain as a human? Now, these are all prophesied in the Bible. Did you know that? All these things I read to you are prophesied in the Bible, subject by subject, as the signs, as the events that needs to happen before the second coming of Christ, before the end of the church age. Now the next thing we're going to see, on top of all these things, all these events are leading to a climax. The climax is the end of the church age. I told you this is a transition. Now the world is transitioning. Let me put it this way. In 70 AD, when Israeli nation was destroyed after Christ came and ascended to heaven, when Israeli nation was destroyed, it wasn't just one nation that was destroyed. It was the end of an era. It was the end of an era and beginning of a new era. It was the end of the Jewish era from the perspective of Bible prophecy, and it was the beginning of the new era, which is the grace era, the church era. We know from Bible prophecy that this era is now coming to a conclusion. I just showed you what happened, only few things. I mean, I can talk on this topic for hours actually, but I don't think you have the patience to sit and watch this talking head for hours there. Now, all these Bible prophecies are leading up to, as they are happening in our world, they are leading up to a climax. The climax is the disappearance of Christians. That's what's going to happen. Suddenly, Christians will disappear from the world. As I told you, church is already in decline and it is being replaced with anti-Christian, anti-God sentiment, which is becoming a global culture. And there will come a day, I believe that day is very, very near, suddenly all the Bible-believing people, true Christians, will disappear from the world. And once that happens, this global community will kick into high gear and they will very quickly establish and confirm a global one world government. And this government will be headed up by a man, the Bible defines him as the Antichrist. This man will rule the world for 7 years and he will take this momentum of transition to the next level. But after the church is gone, God will also pour his wrath on earth for 7 years, as we read in the Bible. At the end of those 7 years, Christ will come with his angelic heavenly army. He will destroy the Antichrist. He will destroy all that Antichrist has built, and he will establish his global Jewish kingdom in Jerusalem. And he will rule the world for 1,000 years. Now, where do you stand in all of this? That is the most important question. Where do you position yourself? Your destiny, your future depends today on where you position yourself. Many people position themselves with the global narrative, with the global momentum. They are going with the flow. They embrace the decline of family, embrace sexual revolution, feminism, homosexuality. They embrace the global culture. They embrace rise of global digital currency. They embrace the rise of trans-humanism. In other words, the rise of Chimera. They embrace whatever the society is pushing onto them. They embrace whatever their TV screen is telling them. Unfortunately, very sadly, many of Christians are also in that camp. But then there is a very small remnant. They can see what's happening. They can see the transition. They can read the Bible prophecy and they can see where it is leading to. And then they decide, no matter what happens, I will stay true to my God. I will stay true to the teachings of the Bible, and I will wait for the day Jesus Christ will come and take me from this world with the rest of his true believers. Now, the question for you is, where do you position yourself? Are you embracing the global flow of events, and are you putting yourself into the same camp with the rest, with them? Or are you stubbornly holding on to the biblical values and principles and waiting for Jesus Christ to come and take you out of this world at the rapture before God pours his wrath on this wicked humanity? The truth is, humanity has chosen to play God. Now, together with it, I have to tell you this thing. I have to tell you that what is happening right now is, I said it before, I'm going to say it again. The people who are behind this demonic movement are actually presenting themselves as scientists. And a lot of the things that you see happening since 1948, especially in the area of sex revolution, feminism, homosexuality, abortion, and etc., as well as the rise of Chimera, the rise of transhumanism, and the decline of humanism. These are done by the so-called scientific community. And these are not happening randomly. These are premeditated developments which required years of work, and they are doing this knowing what they are doing. In other words, they are, when I look at it from the biblical perspective, they're not pure scientists. They are the workers of the devil. They are the priests of the Satan. They are the forerunners of the Antichrist. I beg God that none of his true believers will fall for the lies of the so-called scientific community. May the Lord Jesus Christ bless you until I see you again. Goodbye.